What's up? It's Marco back on the Stage of Soccer channel, and today I'm running through the top 100 incoming college freshmen of the class of 2021. And man, this has been a long time coming. It took me 5 days to make, so please like and subscribe if you enjoy this. And this is going to be a long video, so sit back and relax. So we're talking about college soccer, and I understand people hesitating to watch it. I mean, it's pretty well accepted that it's below academy levels. But keep in mind that several national team players have come from the collegiate level. Guys like DeAndre Yedlin, Zach Steffen, Daryl Dike, and Matt Turner. So I feel like it's something we have to at least keep an eye on, so I want to talk about that. So as I mentioned with the USA national team, this is going to be American players of incoming freshmen, though I do love college soccer for international players. Jack Harrison is somebody who springs to mind who's used it very well, but this is just American players. So for this list, I'm going to be dividing it into two groups with 50 academy prospects and 50 high school prospects. For the academy prospects, I'm using the help of Top Drawer Soccer. It's a very good website for college soccer recruiting. It is behind a paywall for a lot of the stuff, which I didn't pay for, but it is still a very good research, and even with just the free stuff, you get a lot out of it. And I'm going to be really researching the high school players. For high school, I'm going off All-America teams, Gatorade Players of the Year, and just information I can find. So you can't find film off of every player, and even if it is available, it's kind of tough to gauge. I mean, just high school players, just a guy rushing through a team in a highlights. Okay, I think we've all been able to do that at some level if you play any soccer. So we can all put together a good highlight tape, and athleticism in particular is really tough to gauge because you don't know how good these guys are. But yeah, just want to mention that, and information that I say about stuff like their accolades are coming from their school directly, and everything I say about these guys is going to be positive. I mean, it's the nature of highlights and schools being positive about their recruits, so don't expect me to go into the negative sides of these players. I mean, basically we're just looking at upsides of guys right now. So yeah, starting things off with the academy players, and just throwing it out there that going to college could actually be good for academy players sometimes. Guys like Mark McKenzie, he had a really good year at Wake Forest. Miles Robinson at Syracuse, DeAndre Yedlin at Akron. They're among many national team players who have used this path. And there are some extremely talented players in this class. So going back to Top Drawer Soccer, I'm going to be using their rating system for the first few players. They have promising 4-star prospects. If you're wondering where the 5 stars are, well, this is something where it's the class of 2021, so all players in the age range. So guys like Gio Reyna and Joe Scaley, who are already pro, are the 5-star guys. But I'm pretty sure I have the top 30 or so players who are going to college, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I'm going to be giving an overview of these players, plus an outlook of how much I think they will play based on their talent and their situation, returning players, new coaches, stuff like that. So, here we are, starting things off with Adrian Aguiar, the left back who's 5'7". He's going to Portland in a really good recruiting class. Historically, Portland has produced Casey Keller on the men's side, and on the women's side, players like Megan Rapinoe came from there, so pretty good soccer school. So he's from the LA Galaxy Academy, and he's actually appeared in the preseason for the first team, and he was a part of the USA U18 setup. So I have a quote about Adrian, and it's, "On the field, Adrian is a very technical player who is comfortable playing in tight space. Once he transitions to the physical demands and speed of the college game, we see him developing into a very solid player." So that quote comes from the coach of Portland, and quotes like that are either coming from the coach or the school unless I state otherwise. So for Adrian, he's listed as a defender/midfielder, so a lot of opportunities for playing time. The coaching staff sees him as pretty versatile. And last year, no defender nailed down a starting spot for Portland, so he has a chance to fight for a spot, and he's extremely talented, so I see him playing this year, probably a lot more as the year goes on. Next guy I want to talk about is Andrew Cordes. He's a goalkeeper, 6'1", though he may still be growing because I saw him listed as 5'11" earlier, and now he's 6'1", so maybe something's being fudged, maybe he's still growing, I don't know. Just throwing that out there. He's going to Portland as well, going to be going through Portland for a little bit, and he's from the Colorado Rapids Academy, and he made their bench of the USL affiliate. He's been a part of the USA U17 setup, and keep in mind with a lot of these guys, you can't go up to a certain point because it got halted due to the virus. But he was part of the USA U17 setup, and the quote from him is, "Andrew is a very good shot stopper and leader for his club team, who has been part of numerous youth national pools in our country. He's had a wonderful training stints with the Colorado Rapids first team and the USL affiliate Colorado Springs. And last year, Portland used multiple goalkeepers, so I see it as very possible for him getting a chance to play, and his talent is pretty clear to see. So, expect him to do well. Next, we got Sebastian Hernandez. He's a right back and possible center back. He's 5'10". He's going to Portland again. LA Galaxy, and he actually played with their USL team several times. He's also part of USA U16 camp. And a quote about him is, "The first time I saw Hernandez, I immediately noticed the combination of competitive grit and athleticism that's needed in our game model. In this class, we made a priority to recruit defenders who can play more than one position. With youth national teams, we saw Sebastian excel at right center back, and most recently he's been playing outside back with LA Galaxy. Sebastian can run with bigger athletic forwards and is smart enough to deal with smaller dynamic attackers. Every time we watched Sebastian play with LA Galaxy too, he did very well against older seasoned pros in the USL. So yeah, very good praise from Portland's coach, and as I mentioned before, Portland's defense is wide open, and with his versatility, I see him, he's definitely going to be playing for them. Last guy from Portland I want to talk about is Sebastian Nava. He's a winger, he's 5'8", and another guy, LA Galaxy, they must have a connection right now, and he's a very good player. He played with their USL team several times. He's part of the USA U14 setup, and I'm pretty sure I've heard of his name before doing this video, so that's definitely a good sign. And quote from him is, "Sebastian is a dynamic winger, has the ability to break a game open off the dribble. He has a fearless mentality and make plays to unbalanced defenders." So Portland gives a lot of players time, and especially as a winger, that's a position that can come in and out a lot in college. I expect him to be able to shine in this team, get some playing time. Now we transition over to Wake Forest, where the first guy I want to talk about is Trace Alfin, a goalkeeper. He's 6'2", and he's part of a great Wake Forest class. Wake Forest has had a lot of players recently. I already mentioned Jack Harrison, and I mentioned Jack Harrison and Mark McKenzie. Those guys are just the examples, and they came from there. He's from North Carolina FC. He made appearances in the USL, and he's also trained in Denmark, apparently. He's part of the USA U17 setup, and a quote about him is, this is a quote from his North Carolina coach in early 2020, which is, "By the end, Trace adjusted really well to the speed and power that comes from professional soccer. I think this starting point coming into this year will be higher than it was last year, physically, mentally, and tactically." So yeah, he's somebody who we saw a good amount of improvement on. He's already rated really highly in the class, and Wake Forest rotated keepers last year, so I could see him getting a chance pretty easily. So the next guy I want to talk about is Bo Cummins. He's a right back or left back. From highlights that I saw of him, it seems like he might be two-footed. I saw him score with his left foot. He seems to be more comfortable at right back, though, so that's something to keep an eye out on. He's 5'10", and he's, again, the Wake Forest player. So he made several appearances for New York Red Bull in the USL, and I don't really have a quote about him. Sometimes with these players it can be tough to find out, especially if their college doesn't put anything out. But he was recruited to the MLS as a U17 Academy soccer player for New York Red Bull. He joined them in the USL Championship League. He played and started in multiple games, notching a goal and assist. I think he can definitely compete for the right back job there. He's versatile enough to play left back, so I can see Bo Cummins definitely playing for them. Next, we got, I might butcher this name, but Roald, it's like Ronald, but it doesn't have an end. Roald Mitchell. He's a striker/winger. He's wearing number 9, though, for Wake Forest, so maybe he'd be a striker. He's 6'2", and he comes from New York Red Bulls, where he played and scored in the USL for them. So a quote about him is, "Roald Mitchell shone in his first professional start, recording 1 goal and drawing a penalty kick, while also recording 6 shots and winning 11 out of 14 duels in New York's 2-2 draw with Charleston Battery on Sunday, which was May 23rd. So yeah, he's been playing in the USL this year, and I feel like he'll get chances up front on the wing for Wake Forest, so very good player and excited to see him. Now we're going over to North Carolina, and man, that's actually not even that far to go there. You probably get to North Carolina from Wake Forest faster than this video is going to be. So we're starting things off with Ken Bellini. He's a striker/winger, 5'7", from going to North Carolina. And North Carolina has put through a lot of players on the women's side. On the men's side, Greg Berhalter himself is from there. And even though he might not want to admit it, that's definitely going to factor into his decision if he wants to call somebody up. He's played for the Real Salt Lake USL team, and he is Brazilian-born, but he has been called into the USA U14 team, so I think he's completely eligible for the national team. So a quote about him, this is from College Soccer News. His ability to get around defenders, especially down the outside, and his ability to cut back the ball and cut it in front of center forwards is what makes him a good player. Bellini is as fast with the ball as he is without it. From his time as a from his time as a wing through now as a striker for Real Salt Lake. And also quoted as great speed, quickness, and touch on the ball. So yeah, great, looking like a really good player in North Carolina, and they're losing a star forward, so there is going to be a spot open for them. Though at a school like North Carolina, it's kind of tough to break in, and I'm pretty sure that forward is the only starter that they're losing. One defender and one forward. He's an extremely talented player, and I can definitely see him playing, especially in an attack where you want to rotate and give a lot of guys time. Next thing I want to talk about is Andres Cardenas. He's a wing, 5'8", North Carolina again. He played for Inter Miami's USL team as part of the USA U16 setup. He played 6 games, total of 241 minutes and 6 starts in the USL. I feel like it'll be pretty difficult for him to break into the North Carolina team. As I mentioned, they didn't lose too many players outside of that forward, and I don't think I mentioned this, they went deep in the NCAA tournament, so a very good team, but chances will come, injuries happen, and he's a very talented player. Next, we got a guy I'm very excited to talk about. It's Tiga Ikoba. I need to zoom into my notes, make sure I pronounce that name right. He's a striker. He's 6'3". He's from Portland Timbers Academy, where he was a part of the USL team, and he actually played and scored for Portland in the preseason. He's been called to the USA U14 team, and I'm going to let him speak on this. He said, in a 100 meters, I'm going to win the race against anybody on the team. That's him talking about himself on Portland Timbers Twitter account, and he's also been mentioned as a quick, soccer-savvy goal scorer by CSN again. So yeah, very promising player. I mean, when you're that fast at 6'3" and a very good goal scorer, that's exciting to watch. And even though there's a lot of good attackers coming in, there's going to be competing for that forward spot. I feel like Teg is going to be able to really cement himself into that North Carolina team, get himself some time, and he's somebody I'm really excited to watch. Next, we go over to UCLA, and man, UCLA have got such a good program. There's too many really good players to talk about. So what I wanted to mention is Kobe Jones and Jimmy Conrad, 2 players who have played in the World Cup for the USA national team, had to walk on at UCLA. So that's how good they are. So starting things off, we got Andrew Edwards, 6-foot-tall striker from San Jose Earthquakes. Do they still go by Earthquakes? I feel like teams are starting to drop that second name. But okay, he comes from the San Jose Academy, and yeah, that was top. You know, he's only played in the academy, and I don't think he's played for the national team. But man, he's still got a lot of potential. A quote about him is, he has a combination of strong physical gifts, clean technique, great tactical awareness, and a knack for scoring important goals. He's a fierce competitor and a driving force in his team's successes. So UCLA actually have a new coach, and I feel like that gives the recruits a higher chance to play, because when a new guy comes in, you know that he wants to play with his players. Happens in pro soccer, it also happens in college soccer. So even though UCLA is going to be returning a lot of starters, they actually had a down year last year, and with the new coach, I can see a lot of guys having a chance to play. Aaron's one of them. Next guy is Mauricio Gutierrez, 5'9" midfielder. He comes from the LAFC Academy, and he played for the USA U16 team. And quote about him is, Mauricio is a very dynamic left-footed midfielder who exudes tactical quality in passing and shooting. He drives his teams forward with work rate and competitiveness. Again, UCL is going to be returning starters, but the team's rebuilding. New coach, he definitely gets some playing time. Next guy is Brandon Zelaya. I'm butchering that name. Brandon Zelaya. He's a winger, 5'7", from the San Jose Academy. He's actually a USA-Mexico dual international at the youth level. U16 with the USA, U18 with Mexico. So that's somebody you got to keep an eye on, and I'm pretty sure he's another guy I've heard of his name before. Brandon has natural goal-scoring instincts, which are enhanced by his technical qualities. He has proven to be a valuable asset for his team's attack, and we look forward to seeing what he can continue to do at UCLA. Same story with him. I feel like he's had a good chance to play. So next, we're going over to Notre Dame, who have a very good program. We're starting with center back Josh Ramsey, and I feel like that's kind of notable to mention because Matt Beasler, the former USA international, was a center back at Notre Dame, so they've got good pedigree there. Josh Ramsey, center back, left-footed, 6 foot tall. Left-footed center back's actually a pretty big deal, so I'm really hoping this guy can do well. He comes from the famous FC Dallas Academy, and he played in the USL for San Antonio on loan. He's part of the USA U17 setup, And the quote about him is, "On the pitch, Josh is a big-time enforcer, attacking the ball fanatically, all while shifting cover gaps and screaming for the switch in play. Even on a casual viewing, you can find yourself saying, 'Wow, what a tackle,' over and over, because he constantly wins 50-50s in dangerous spots." That is from Foot 411. Not sure about that website. Is 411 Dallas's area code? That would make sense. But Notre Dame are returning 3 starters in defense, but they actually only have 3 defenders total with college experience. So there's one spot, and as a left-footed center back, he may be able to fit the role. And even if he doesn't, I mean, injuries happen over the course of a season, and he can definitely find himself playing. So next guy I want to talk about, still in Notre Dame, is Matthew Roux. It's a Roou. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Roux, probably that. He's a striker. He's 5'10", and he's also, I should say, he's a 9 or a 10. He can operate on both of them. He's from the Indiana 11 Academy, and he was part of the USA U16 setup as well as the USA Futsal youth team. Quote about him is, "Matthew is a very talented attacking player, a number 10 type player, creative, and can score goals." That was from Indy 11, I think. I actually kind of forget where that quote was from. It might have been from Notre Dame. But, as an attacker, he can find playing time and carve himself a role. The number 9 position is on lock, but number 10 spot, that could be available at Notre Dame. But at the same time, it's a question of if they even play with a 10. I mean, that's a position that USA national teams don't play with. Just a lot of teams don't even play with a 10. So, and he's going to have to... He might have to switch up his role. Maybe they'll adjust to him. I don't know. It's tough to say. But yeah, he's somebody very exciting to watch and somebody to keep an eye on. Now we're going to Clemson, where we have Elton Chifamba, a midfielder who can play as a 6 or an 8. He's 5'6", but he seems like a very promising player. He comes from the Columbus Crew Academy, or the Crew Academy. These teams are changing their names too much. And he was in the USA U16 setup. The quote about him is, he possesses an elite engine that aids him in his offense and defensive responsibilities. In addition, Alton has an innate ability to remain calm under pressure. He's an intelligent player who does what he can to retain the ball and doesn't necessarily force the ball forward when it doesn't need to be. That's from Don't Tread Soccer. And Clemson are going to be returning several midfielders, but Clemson allows multiple players a lot of opportunities to play. And this is the guy who has a lot of talent, and I can see him forcing his way in, and I really do expect Alton to play. And the coach seems to really like him from quotes I've found. So I'm expecting Alton to play for them. Next, still in Clemson, we got Adam Lundgaard. He's a left-footed center back. He's 6'1" from DC United's Academy, and he played for Ludendun, butcher that too, in the USL, and he went on trial with West Ham. Also played with the USA U16 Academy. USA U16 setup. The quote about him is, "Adam has played at a very high level, having been with London and being in and out of the national team camps. He's a left-sided player who's very good with the ball, which is important with the way we play. Adam has all the intangible qualities we're looking for, and a really good kid who wants to win." So for his chance to play, Clemson actually just sent a center back to the MLS and the Swedish league. So there are spots open, and it'll come down to a battle, but I can definitely see him forcing his way into his starting lineup and definitely see him getting some time this year. Now we're going to Louisville, where we got Dante Huckabee. He's a center back, 6'1", from Philadelphia Union. He played in the USL for their team. He was also part of the USA U16 setup. And the quote from him is, "Spent all of the 2020 season playing with Philadelphia Union 2 of the USL Championship. Huckabee started every Union 2 match, and he logged the most minutes on the team." That's from Soccer Wire. And from what I can tell, no defensive starters actually returned to Louisville, so he can easily win a starting role, but it's going to still be a competition for that spot. Next, staying in Louisville, we got Gavin, make sure I get it right, Krenecki. He's a 6-foot-tall goalkeeper. He played in Sporting Kansas City's USL team, and he's also part of the USA U17 setup. So the quote about him is, "Krenecki has also been a mainstay in the USA Youth National Team program since 2016, playing for U14, U16, U17 national teams." That's again from Soccer Wire. And Louisville, for his playing time, Louisville used multiple goalkeepers last year, Drake and Bell. Really, Drake and Bell. And Drake is gone, but Bell returns, and so starter is returning, but Gavin should still have a chance to play if they continue to rotate their goalkeepers. So now we're going to SMU, and I believe this is the last program with multiple players that I'm going to be talking about right now. Grady Easton, he's a center back, 6'3". He's going to be playing with SMU. They sent Kenny Cooper to the U.S. men's national team. That's somebody. He's from the FC Dallas Academy, playing the USL with North Texas. He's been described by Big D Soccer as the hulking center back. And SMU only returns 2 starters at defense, and he was actually given the number 4, which that's not something you can gauge too much on because, guys can just take numbers, but he's by far the lowest number by any freshman, and I can really see him getting some time this season. Next, we got Bailey Sparks, an attacking midfielder, but he's listed as a forward. He's 6 foot tall, again staying in SMU. He's from the Sporting Kansas City Academy. He played for them in the USL, also with the USA U17 setup. Now, Sparks arrives in Kansas City this is from a quote from when he arrived in Kansas City. Sparks arrives in Kansas City having led Solar SC to the U17 Boys Development Academy Championship during the 2018-19 U.S. Soccer Development Academy season last summer, playing a pivotal role during that run. Sparks had a goal and an assist in the 3-2 semifinal victory over LA Galaxy before recording another assist in the final. Now, for SMU, no player listed as a forward has started for SMU last year, so I could easily see a spot going to him, and especially because he's an attacking midfielder that they're changing his position, you could definitely see that as someone who's the coach really likes him there and might give him a spot as a starter. So, next guy I want to talk about, we're going over to Akron for Mitchell Butler. He's a 6'2" goalkeeper. Akron produced the DeAndre Yedlin, actually a very good soccer program there. So Butler played with the Philadelphia Union in the USL, and he was a youth national in normal soccer, normal football, whatever, and futsal. So, quote from him is, Mitch Butler, write that name down. He's a 17-year-old phenom on a path to professional soccer and quite possibly the World Cup. That's from Kevin Jutz, a Nebraska reporter. I don't even think a sports reporter, just a Nebraska reporter. That's where he's from, and they're pretty high on him over there. Honestly, I am too. Last season, Akron's goalkeeper was a senior, and with the rules, I'm not sure if he's returning or not yet. They haven't put out their roster yet, so I'm not sure, but if he's not, he can easily win the starting job. And even if he does return, he's someone who's possibly playing in the World Cup soon, so he could definitely win himself a starting spot, but he's a very talented player and someone I'm pretty high on. Next, we're going with Danny Flores, 5'8" midfielder. He's going to Virginia Tech, who just produced the number 1 pick in the MLS draft, Daniel Pereira. He's from the Philadelphia Union Academy, but he went to Oakland Roots to play in the USL. He's been involved with the USA U17 setup, and the quote about him is, Gonzalez has played 3 seasons with the Union, competed in 2 seasons with the Union USL Pro Team. He's also named to the U17-18 U.S. Soccer DA Central Conference Best 11. Jesus, that's a lot of words. But Virginia Tech returns a lot of starters, so having a starting spot will be kind of hard. But they do use subs a lot, so it'll be possible for him to get some playing time. Injuries happen, and he's a quality player, so he might be able to show his stuff and really get himself in the team, but it's going to be a harder path than a lot of other players. Now we're going over to Indiana, who produced Mason Toy and Aiden Morris pretty recently, and we got Samuel Sarver, a wing and striker. He's 5'9". He's from the Crew Academy, where he played in the USA U17 setup. He's ranked as, there's not really a quote on him, so he was ranked as the 32nd recruit nationally by Top Drawer Soccer. Again, keep in mind, Gio Reyna's number 1. He played in 55 academy matches for the Crew Academy with 44 starts, tallied 44 goals in the academy ranks. He competed with the USA U17 national team. So he was given number 9, and that's a good sign, but Indiana, they're national finalists, and they're returning their strike force, so I'm not really expecting him to start. Victor Perez is there, and he's a really talented player. He's probably going to be picked in the MLS draft this year if he doesn't decide to return for his senior year. So I don't think I'd expect him to start, but with his pedigree, I really expect some playing time. Next, we got Joseph Zielinski. He's a right back, 5'10". He's going to Rutgers, who produced Alexi Lawless. So some great players can come from there, but might not have a promising commentary career. But he's from the New York Red Bull, where they play in the USL. He trained with the first team. A quote about him is, the moment we arrived, this is just a quote about the Rutgers class, but it applies to Joseph especially. The moment we arrived here, we knew we wanted to recruit the best players in the state of New Jersey. We knew these players inside and out, and were really impressed with the group coming in. The major theme this year was to bring in players who have a high level of talent who can help us win immediately, while also having a high ceiling that can improve down the line. Now, there are 3 starters returning from Rutgers, but with a quote like that from the coach, I mean, you definitely expect him to fight for playing time, and with how good he is, I definitely see him winning it. So next, the last guy I want to talk about in detail from the academy class is William Riley. He's a midfielder who is either a 6 or an 8. He's 5'10". He's going to Stanford, who produced Jordan Morris pretty recently. He's from Atlanta United. He played for them in the USL, and he was rated really highly by a lot of their players. He was kind of expected to become a homegrown guy, but decided to go to college instead. He was actually rated higher than Caden Clark for a little bit, so I wanted to mention that. And quote about him is, Riley joined the Twos mid-season in 2019, and since then he cemented himself in the holding midfield role, even as tactics switched from 2-man midfields, where he's paired in a double with Amir Bashti, to 3-man midfields, where his role is to sit back in a triangle with the center backs and play a role that feels like a hybrid of Darlington Hagby and Michael Bradley. That's from Dirty South Soccer, the Atlanta program. He comes in with a lot of talent, and I'm definitely expecting him to play and develop, and William Riley, he's definitely one of the most promising players on this list. So yeah, those are the really good players I thought. We're still in the 4-star players, but those are the guys who I felt were really high on. In addition to them, we got Lucas Hastios from Charlotte Independence, and he's going to North Carolina State. He's part of the USA U17 setup. He's 6'2", though I feel like it's going to be tough for him to play at NC State. Another goalkeeper is Ben Martino. He's from the Philadelphia Union, going to Virginia Tech. He's had some USL championship games for the Philadelphia Union. He's 6'6", and honestly, I feel like he has a decent chance to play for Virginia Tech. Next, for defenders, we got Jason Belloli from Chicago Fire. He's going to Denver. He's 6'3". I feel like he's got a decent chance to play for them. Staying in Denver, Trevor Wright from Real, Colorado, formerly with the Colorado Rapids. He's 6'3" again, and they know what they want there. I feel like he's got a decent chance to play for them. Next, we got Kyle Genenbacher, I hope, from St. Louis FC. He's going to Notre Dame. He's 5'10". He's a defender. Like Ramsey, he's got a chance to play, but it is going to be tough to win that spot. Next, we got Nico Rye McMillan from the Seattle Sounders. He's going to Stanford as well. USA U17 setup. He's 5'9", and it's going to be difficult to break into that Stanford lineup, but he is a very talented player. Next, we got TJ Presthus. His dad actually played for the U.S. men's national team. He's from the Columbus Crew Academy, and he's going to Yale. He's 6 foot tall, and the Ivy League had no games last year, so whenever I have an Ivy League school come up, it's basically open competition. We have basically no data to go on, so TJ could easily play for them this year. Now going to the midfield, we got Maximilian Guigel. I'm not sure. It's a German name, and how I'm sure about that is because he comes from VfB Stuttgart, the Stuttgart Academy, especially, like, over in Germany, where he's coached by Mauricio Pellegrino. He's actually going to Harvard. He's in the Ivy League like his manager. Mauricio went to Columbia. He's a former USA and German youth international. He's 5'11", open competition with Ivy. He's got a good chance to play. He's probably one of the most talented players, but I didn't mention him in the earliest segment because despite his talent, I don't really know if he wants to go pro right now. He's going to Harvard. He actually took a gap year, so it's tough to say for him. Next in the midfield, Luke Hill, North Carolina FC, staying in state, going to NC State. He's a spring enrollee. He's already played for them, but he only played once. He's from the USA U14 national setup. He's 6 foot tall, but I kind of find it hard to see him getting playing time this year, but he could progress, so it's up in the air. For the forwards, we got Paulo Primavera. He's from the New York Cosmos Academy, and I believe he was part of Queensboro FC. I'm not too sure. He was kind of on a roster spot, but that page disappeared. Queensboro is that new team that's going to be coming up in New York. In Queens. They've already got their academy set up, though. He's going to Columbia. All that New York stuff. He's staying in state. He's 6 foot tall, Ivy League, open competition, so decent chance to play. And lastly, for the 4 stars, we got Taylor Reinhardt, great name. He's from the Indiana Fire Academy, and he's going to Xavier. He's 5'11", and he either grew a lot because I saw him listed as 4'10", or that's a mistake. But 5'11", decent chance to play for Xavier. Probably the lowest, not lowest quality, but lowest, reputation-wise, a team any of the 4 stars are going to. So that's it for the 4-star guys from Top Drawer Soccer, but there's still some other good academy players. One guy I wanted to mention first is Bryce Bono. He's going to Notre Dame. He's 5'10". He was part of FC Dallas's academy. He also played in high school, where he was actually named the Gatorade National Player of the Year. But his high school career is kind of hampered by injuries, and I really can't see him playing this year because he's still hurt. But I still wanted to mention him. He had a great goal record, got 18 goals, 19 assists in 30 games. Seems very good technically from what I've seen in highlights. Notre Dame's website says he was a national 3v3 champion. I'm pretty sure futsal has 4 guys, but I don't know. I haven't played futsal in so long. But yeah, so very tactical to be able to do that, but already dealt with a lot of injuries, so athleticism up in the air, but I want to give Bryce a mention. Next, there are 5 players who were in the top 50 list from 2019. This was the top 50 players, like total, which included Giovanni Reina, Joe Scaley, and Caden Clark. These guys were all on that list, but not included in the 4 stars. So starting things off, we got Luke Granitor. He's an attacker, formerly of Orlando City FC. He's going to North Carolina. He actually made some USL appearances and played for the USA U17 team. He's 5'10", and I mentioned before, North Carolina does have a forward spot, and he definitely has a chance to compete for it, but man, I really like the strikers already at North Carolina that I mentioned, so I'm not too sure if he's going to be able to win that, but playing time should be available. Next, we got Tyler Tabor. He's a midfielder who comes from RFCU Luxembourg. Yeah, Luxembourg. He's going to Virginia Tech. He's a USA-Luxembourg dual international, 5'9", and like Danny Flores, he could find some time, but it's going to be tough. Next, we got Thomas Tolgar. He's a striker from New York Red Bull. He's going to Providence. He's 5'10". Starting's going to be pretty tough for him, but he's a talented player, so playing time is definitely possible. Next, we got Gavin Tabahay, I want to say. He's he's a defender from New York Red Bull. He's going to Brown, USA Youth International. He's 5'9", Ivy League's open competition, so we could definitely play. Then Kobe Stoop. He's Stoop. He's a defender from Atlanta United. He's going to Air Force. He was recruited by a lot of schools, but he's from a military family, so I think he's adopted into a military family, so he's going to Air Force. He's part of the USA U16 team. He's 5'8", and Air Force is returning all their starters, but he's a very talented player, so I can definitely see him playing. Now, some more academy players include twins Nathan and Charlie Crockford from the Chicago Fire. They're going to UCLA. Charlie is a 6'1" midfielder. Nathan, a 6'4" goalkeeper. Now, I feel like they'll both struggle for playing time their freshman year, but UCLA, a lot more open there. They could experiment with their team, and there's definitely a good outlook for the future for those guys. Matthew Edwards is a defender from Atlanta United, going to North Carolina. He's played some USL games, 5'10", and it's going to be tough for him to play, but he is pretty talented, so it could happen. Caden Stafford, striker from Philadelphia Union, going to Maryland. He's played some USL games, 6 foot tall. He's got some. I feel like he'll get some chances at Maryland University, but it's going to be tough for him to start. And finish off, we got 3 former Revolution players. Cause you guys might have noticed that been a lot of academy teams, no New England Revolution or Houston Dynamo for that matter. There are a couple guys I mentioned, like Minnesota. There was a player who used to play there. Okay, that's semantics, but there's a good amount of players from the North, but none from New England. And all 3 of these guys played for high school, and I actually found a forum talking about like how bad New England's academy is. And from what I looked on it, they actually do only have 2 homegrown players in their first team. But I have to say, despite that, they draft pretty well, and we're getting Matt Turner from them. And Juan Agudelo was there when he was pretty good. I was a big fan of Lee Wynn when he was there. Diego Fagundes, he was a very good player. So nothing against New England, but this was pointing out their academy. So I want to give these 3 guys a shout out. Jack Anderson, he's a I want to mention all 3 of these guys were All-Americans in high school. Jack Anderson's midfield. He played in Loomis Chaffee High School in Connecticut. He's going to be going to Syracuse. I couldn't find his height. He looks 5'11" from highlights, but not too sure. And I'm pretty sure he's being redshirted this year. Next, we got Andrew Serafino. He's listed as a forward/midfielder for Boston College. He's part of he went to Suffield Academy in Connecticut. He's 5'9", and we'll find it pretty tough to start, but I could see him getting some game time. Then Aiden Farwell from Milton Academy, Massachusetts. He's also going to Boston College. He's also listed as a forward/midfielder. He is 6 foot tall, and I feel like, again, it's going to be tough for him to find starting time, but he got number 7, so might have a better chance at starting than Andrew. So those are 50 of the best academy players going to college. I counted, made sure, 50. So yeah, man, I can definitely see some stars coming from there. And just some of the guys I'm really high on, right, just from scouting these guys. Sebastian Nava, definitely Tega Ikoba. He looks really good. And Brandon Zelaya, I hope I got his name right this time. And Elton, dude, there's a lot of really promising guys in this setup. And yeah, I'm really excited to see these guys play. Hopefully I got you guys a bit more interested in college from the academy guys, but man, we still got a lot of players to go. Oh, I do want to mention some honorable mentions. Gotta get some water quick. Okay, Abel Mendoza and Ibrahim Obiad. I think I butchered Ibrahim's name, but both of them are 4-star players who should be going to Northwestern Abel should be going to Army and Ibrahim to Northwestern, but Army's coach left for Northwestern, and now I can't find a future on either of them. So I wanted to mention them in case they do end up playing, but I haven't been able to find a team for them, but they are very talented. And also want to mention Miles Leons, he's going to Portland, Sam Bennett, who's going to Indiana, and Michael Ross, he's going to Notre Dame. They're probably all more talented than the 3 New England guys I mentioned, but I want to mention the New England thing. So now we're going on to high school players, and in high school I feel like that's even less prestigious than just academy guys going to college for a year, but there have been several college players who went from, or several U.S. men's national team players who went from high school to college, the MLS to the national team. Matt Turner and Daryl Dike are 2 guys who are probably in my U.S. men's national team top 23 players right now. So I feel like this is definitely something that can be talked about, should be looked at. So I'm going to be going through the top players, starting with 6 players who have done what I call a trifecta. They were named an All-American, they won a state title, and they were named Gatorade Player of the Year. Why am I going for that criteria? Well, Daryl Dike, that's what he did. And I'm going to be giving an overview of these players. Let's now look at how much they'll play based on returning starters and just overall situation from their college. Okay, so starting off the 50 high school players, we got Scott Testori. He's a forward who's 6'3". He's going to UConn, who have a pretty good tradition with guys like Andre Blake and Kyle Larin. He's from Daniel Hand High School in Connecticut, and he was named U.S. Soccer Coach National Player of the Year. He was an All-American, Connecticut Gatorade Player of the Year, led his team to a high school state championship, I think multiple actually. And a quote about him from an opposing coach is, Scott was truly a dynamic player. He was the main player we needed to game plan for. We tried strategies over the 4 years. If you forgot about him for even one sequence, he would make you pay for it. He comes in with a lot of hype as Player of the Year and a lot of talent, and I expect him to be playing at UConn this fall. So next we got Ben Liscombe. He's a midfielder, 6 foot tall. He's going to Penn State. He's from Lewisburg High School in Pennsylvania. All-American, Pennsylvania Gatorade Player of the Year, high school state champion. Quote from opposing coach on him, Ben possesses the ability to be successful anywhere on the pitch. He's able to easily dominate from any position. He controls the game from any spot, and he has moved around willingly. Ben's overall knowledge of the game goes hand in hand with his versatility on the pitch. Now, he's somebody really good player. I can definitely see him getting some game time at Penn State this year. Next, we got Micah Garnett. He's a forward, 5'9", from St. John's. He's from St. Giles Bernard School in Gladstone, New Jersey. I mentioned Gladstone because using that town mentioned in a book that I'm writing, so interesting there. Now, something about Micah. He's originally from St. Kitts and Nevis, and he has played for their youth national team. However, from what I've seen, I think that he's still eligible for the U.S. men's national team, so I wanted to mention that, but I feel like he's still able to be on this list. So he's an All-American, New Jersey Player of the Year, high school state champion, and a quote about him is, Mike is a consistent threat to score or create a goal for a teammate. Just when you think your game plan is stopping him from working, his exceptional speed and soccer sense allows him to elude a defender. Now he's going to St. John's University. Did I mention that? I feel like I didn't mention that. But he's going to St. John's University, where I feel like he'll have a really good chance to play. St. John's has put up very little information, but I feel like he's got a shot. Next, we've got Francesco Pagano, a forward. He's 6'1". He's going to Syracuse, who produced Tajon Buchanan and Miles Robinson recently. He's from Fayetteville, Monlius, New York High School, where he was All-American, Gatorade Player of the Year, led his team to an undefeated season. I'm not sure if they had a state title. because season was shortened, but man, they didn't lose a game this year. Then a quote about him from an opposing coach: Francisco Pagano is in a class all by himself. He's a dominant athlete. His size, skill, and explosiveness make him very dangerous, and I can say without reservation that he is by far and away the best player we've seen. Now, Syracuse, it's going to be tough for him to start. They have a very good team, very good program, but I definitely can see him getting some time, and he's somebody I'm really high on. Like all of these guys that I'm mentioning, I'm pretty high on as players. Next, we've got Maxwell Florini. He's a center back, 6'2". He's going to St. Louis, who've produced Tim Ream for the national team. And I know we're not high on him right now, but dude's a Premier League player. He went from going to the same school, same position. He's from Warren Township High School in Illinois, All-American, Illinois Gatorade Player of the Year, high school state champion. Quote about him is, Max is a rare package. He has the physical attributes of height and strength and individual skill from a technical aspect and the mental strength persevering through life's challenges. And I feel like he's got a decent chance of playing time at St. Louis. He's a very good player and very strong player too. Like, I'm really expecting him to do well. Really looking forward to Max. And last guy with the trifecta, we got Iran. He goes to Irani Saljimani, I want to say. He's a midfielder / forward, 6'1", going to Western Michigan University. Can't pull up a guy from there, but man, good school. I think Terry Crews went there. He's from Gold Lake High School in Michigan, where he's All-American, Gatorade Player of the Year, and high school state champion. The quote about him is, Ronnie has so many ways he can beat you. Ronnie is present from the opening whistle. I never want to see him over a ball for a free kick because it's going to be on frame with pace. I mean, his set pieces were dangerous. When I was looking up that state title run, a lot of goals came from his set pieces. And I feel like at Western Michigan, not the greatest school, he's got a very good chance of playing time. And if that's what he's after, he's also staying close to home. Really looking forward to see what Ronnie can do. Probably a good situation for him. Now, something I want to mention is that every one of those 6 players, except for Micah, went to public school. And Micah started out at public school before getting recruited. So I don't know any of them personally, but this may be players who only way around like the pay-to-play system that I feel like we're getting rid of, but that definitely was still a thing. So that's something to mention with these high school players. Like, that's an avenue to get around this system, and they're doing it very well. So I'm really high on these guys, and that's another reason to pay attention to these players. Okay, so those are the guys that I really wanted to mention for that trifecta, but there are still some really good players. Starting with Richie Nichols. He's a midfielder. He's 5'8", and he was actually listed as a 4-star player along with all the academy players. He was the only non-academy player really listed on that list. So he's going to Maryland University, which is interesting because he's not going to Loyola, where his dad and brother are. His dad coaches there, and they have a pretty good program at Loyola. But Maryland, very good team. Zach Steffen came from there, and he went to McDonough School in Maryland, where he's an All-American and state champion. The quote about him is, Richie is a versatile center midfielder who can really do a job there. He can sit deeper in the midfield and provide stability for your defense and link play, or he can play higher up the field and create chances and score goals. The ability to do all those roles effectively make at the top level is a pretty special thing for a midfielder. So yeah, I'm very high on him. He's got a pretty good chance to play at a Maryland. Yeah, very good player. Next, we got Josh Adam, 6'1" center back, going to Michigan State. He's from Livingston County High School in Michigan. He's an All-American, and quote about him is his energy level and intensity, regardless of where he plays on the field. He energizes all the players around him. That's probably the biggest quality, is he makes all his teammates around him better, and that's one of the best qualities you can look for in a player. Now, he's going to Michigan State. Might be tough for him to play as a freshman, but still a very good player to look out for. Next, we got Grant Farley, 6'3" goalkeeper, and I'm mentioning this because it comes up every time I look him up. Grant's son of Baseball Hall of Famer Brooks Robinson. He played for the Orioles, and pretty big icon in Baltimore, I think. And, he's related to him. He's going to Duke University, which just produced Jeremy Ibabesi. He's probably butchered that name, too. He's from Gilman Academy in Maryland. He was an All-American, and he didn't win a state championship because he was rivaled with Richie Nichols. So a quote about him is, this is from a couple years ago. Grant has only been playing goalkeeper for 5, now 7 years. He's been developing at high level and growing into the position. He aspires to get better and better, and he will get better and better the more he plays. That's from MIA Sports, and that's a similar background to Matt Turner, so I definitely want to mention that. And Duke goalkeeper split time last year, and I think one's moving on, so there's definitely a good chance for Grant to play. Next, we got Josh Jones, the 6'4" center back / defensive mid who's going to Louisville. He's from North Penn High School in Pennsylvania. He was an All-American and high school state championship champion, and it sucks that he played in the same school as same state as Ben Liscombe, because he definitely should have been a player of the year as well, because he's a great guy. Quote about him, and this is from his coach, and it's actually one of the best ones I have. He is 6'4" and has incredible range and stamina. He reads the game very well, but above all, he has the best feet of any big man I've seen at this level. He can use both feet in tight spaces and has an immaculate first touch. And yet, he's also the best aerial player I've coached in terms of his timing and technique in heading the ball, both offensively and defensively. I think he might be the best header in the nation at his age. Now, playing time will be a battle. He's going to be competing with Dante at Louisville, but as I mentioned, I don't think they're returning any starters, so he definitely has a chance to play, and Josh Jones, definitely someone to look out for. Next guy is Jeffrey Koch. He's a center back, 6'1", he's going to SMU. He's from Liberty, Colorado High School. He was a he went to SMU, also produced Kenny Cooper. I mentioned that already. But he was Colorado Gatorade Player of the Year. Not an All-American, but he was listed as a pretty good recruit. Quote about him is, Jeff was the best defender we faced this year. He locked down the middle of Lancers' defense, as well as being an offensive threat on set pieces. That was from an opposing coach. And he does have the opportunity to play, but he'll be competing with Grady, and I feel like it's going to be a lot tougher for him to play. Next guy is Cole Parate. He's a midfielder, 5'11". He's going to Georgetown, who just had Mendez, their former player, signed with Crystal Palace. He's from Brunswick High School in Ohio. He was an All-American. Quote about him is, Cole's a big, imposing midfielder with good feet and a nose for goal. We feel he can be someone who can create chances for himself or teammates from a little bit deeper position. Now, that does specify position, but Georgetown is a very good school, and especially as a freshman, playing time is going to be pretty tough for him, but still a very promising player. Next guy I want to talk about is Jordan Schumacher. He's a 6'3" goalkeeper. He's going to Coastal Carolina, and something interesting about Coastal Carolina is their goalkeeper, Tor Sanders, just got drafted into the MLS, so that's definitely a good situation he's going to. He's from Lucier Charter School in Louisiana, and he was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Louisiana and high school state champion. On the way to the title, he saved a penalty in both the semifinals and the finals. So he's a great goalkeeper. Quote about him is, Schumacher's soccer IQ is high, he's tall and rangy with great hands, and he has an understanding of how to play offensively, which most keepers lack. So yeah, as I mentioned, there's the incumbent goalkeeper at Nashville. Is now in Nashville, so definitely a spot for him at Coastal Carolina, and I'm pretty high on Jordan Schumacher. Next, we got Carter Hainsley. He's a midfielder, 6'2", going to Virginia Tech. He's from Mayors Park High School in North Carolina. He's an All-American and North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year. Quote about him is, Carter's extremely fast, even with the ball at his feet. He has excellent vision and is an absolute game changer. He works hard in all aspects of the field. He's a player who you can count on to change a game in a minute. He has decent chance to play at Virginia Tech. He's going to be with Danny, I believe. But yeah, it's going to be tough to play, but I feel like he'll get some time, but may be tough to start. And last guy I really want to go into is Guy Vivaldini. He's a midfielder, 6'3", from North Carolina, going to North Carolina. He's from the McCallie School in Tennessee. He was an All-American and Tennessee Gatorade Player of the Year. Quote about him is, Guy plays with so much speed and is dangerous in many ways. He's very difficult to defend, and his size makes him a force. Now, it's going to be tough for him to break to that North Carolina team, but hey, he might get some time, might get some chances, and he's a very talented player. In addition to those guys, some people I want to talk about to round out the 100. Goalkeeper Zachary Kelly, Holt High School in Michigan, going to Michigan State. He was an All-American. He's 5'11", and I don't really see him starting as a freshman. Now, staying with goalkeepers, Eric Dimora, Clifton, New Jersey, going to Monmouth University, All-American and high school state champion, but 6'2", and probably going to be pretty tough for him to play. Luke Snyder from Cumberland Valley, Pennsylvania, going to High Point University. I actually knew a goalkeeper who went to High Point. And he's 6'4". It's going to be pretty tough for him to play, though, I think. Now going over to defenders, we got Colin Marmont from Fordham Prep in New York. He's going to Fairfield University, which produced Matt Turner. He's an All-American. I couldn't find his height, but his brother is 6 foot tall. So let's say he's around 6 foot tall. And he could play for them, but it's going to be tough. And just finding height for these players, like a lot of guys, it's irrelevant, but Like, I wanted to find it and mention it just because it took a lot of research to find players' heights, so yeah, I definitely wanted to bring that up. Next, Will Horn. He's from Montclair Kimberly in New Jersey. He's going to be attending St. John's with Mika Garnett. He's an All-American, 6'1", and again, he could play, but it's going to be pretty tough for him. St. John's has got a good school, but hey, he's got a shot. And next we got Sean Green from Chaminade, Missouri. He's going to Creighton. He's an All-American and 5'10". It'll be tough for him to play, and he may need to adjust to defense because he was a former midfielder. And that's actually it for goalkeepers and defenders. So, yeah, these All-American lists are pretty biased towards attackers. I mean, what's that, like 5 goalkeepers and defenders? I mentioned a couple earlier, but and Sean Green played midfield in high school. That's the only reason why he's on there. So now going on to midfielders, starting with Matthew Andrusko from Brookfield East High School in Wisconsin, going to Loyola Chicago. All-American, he's 6'1", and it's going to be tough for him to play. I feel like they're returning a lot of good players, but he was given number 2, so that might be a good sign. Next we got Game Anguil from Milwaukee Marquette University not University, from Milwaukee Marquette High School in Wisconsin, going to Wisconsin-Milwaukee University, staying close to home. He's an All-American, was a high school state champion, and with him staying close to home, I feel like he's got a very good chance to play for them. Next, we got Kurt Kolov. He's from Dalburton High School in New Jersey. He's going to Syracuse. He was an All-American. He's 5'9", but I think he's going to be redshirted this year, which, going back to Pagano, that's a really good sign for him because he's the only freshman I'm mentioning who has been redshirted. Next, we got Keegan Dawson from Avon High School in Ohio. He's going to St. Bonaventures. He's 5'9", and All-American. It's going to be tough for him to play, I'm pretty sure. Don't expect too much from him this year. Next, we got Benjamin Griffiths from Monroe High School in Ohio. He's going to Bellarmine University, which is a new D1 school. They were a former D2 school. They just got upgraded to D1. He's an All-American, 6 foot tall. They're returning some starters, but I feel like this was a really recent move to D1. A lot of those starters were D2 recruits. And I feel like with his All-American status, he's a very good player. I feel like Benjamin's going to be playing for them, but it's for Bellarmine, so. Next, we got Jake Kozak from St. Dominic, Missouri. He's going to Southern Illinois University, Evansville. He's an All-American. He was Gatorade Player of the Year in Missouri. It's going to be tough for him to play, but he has a lot of talent. Next, we got Sam Latona from Manchester Central in New Hampshire, and he's going to Cornell. He's an All-American, New Hampshire Gatorade Player of the Year, 5'8", and open competition at Cornell, as I mentioned, with all the Ivy League schools. Sorry, I had to with New Hampshire going to Ivy League. But, yeah, Sam Latona, very good chance to play, somebody to keep an eye on. Next, we got Lorenzo Cellini from Newfield High School in New York. He's going to Hofstra University. He's an All-American and 5'8". It's going to be tough for him to play as they're returning a lot of starters, but I feel like he has the talent to really do it. Next, we got Jared Sinoviv. He's from St. Charles North High School in Illinois. He's going to Bradley University. He's a 5'9" All-American. It's a pretty young team at Bradley, and I feel like, especially with him going to a smaller school, he's got a great chance to play. Next, we got Tommy Ziprich from Loyola Academy in Illinois. He's going to Lehigh University. He's an All-American. I couldn't find his height, but he played basketball, and he wasn't listed as, like, really tall. Because with, like, a lot of those players, when they're really tall, it, like, gets brought up. That wasn't brought up at all for him. So, he played basketball, so he's probably tall, but he's not, like, huge. So I'm going to say, like, 5'10" to 6 feet tall, probably. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be tough for him to play at Lehigh. They got a pretty good team returning. Next, we got Brock Pickett from Bay High School in Ohio. He's going to Wright State. He's an All-American, 5'11", and I feel like he'll get an opportunity to play there. Next, we got Jonah Kawamura from Iolani, Hawaii. He's going to Washington University. He was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Hawaii. He's 5'10", and I feel like it's possible. It's going to be tough for him to play at Washington, but it might be possible. Next, we got Tycon Strud from Mount St. Joseph, Maryland. He's going to Temple. He's the Maryland Gatorade Player of the Year over some very good players in Maryland that I mentioned previously. He was a high school state champion there. He's 5'11", and I actually think he might be redshirted, but he's definitely a very good player and someone to keep an eye on. Next, we got Andrew Ortiz from Gull Lake, Massachusetts. He was the Massachusetts Gatorade Player of the Year. I believe he led them to a high school state championship. It didn't say that, but they were undefeated, so probably did. And he's 5'10". He's got a decent chance to play at Massachusetts. Massachusetts recruiting their player of the year. That's probably good for them. And next we got a similar story here. Nathan Lagoa. He's from LaSalle Academy in Rhode Island, and he's going to Providence University. So another Northeast guy staying in the Northeast. Rhode Island Gatorade Player of the Year. He was a high school state champion there. He's 5'10", but I feel like it's going to be pretty hard for him to play at Providence. I mentioned another attacker they recruited earlier. So now, finishing up, we got the forwards. We got Casey Phillips from Drayton School, and don't have where it's from, actually, but he's going to Binghamton in New York. He's an All-American, 6 foot tall. I feel like he's got a decent chance to play for New York. Next, we got Marco Rimich from St. Ignatius in Ohio. Going to Bowling Green University. He was an All-American, high school state champion. He's 5'11". He's got a decent chance to. I feel like he could have had a chance to play, but he might be redshirted there. I'm not too sure there, so maybe just check there, but not somebody to keep an eye on this year. Next, we got John Gates from John Burroughs, Missouri. He's going to Loyola Chicago. He was an All-American, high school state champion, and I feel like he has some opportunities to play at Loyola Chicago. Next, we got Josemir Gomez from North Central Indiana, going to Indiana University, Purdue University, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indiana. And he's an All-American, 6'1". That school is returning some starters, but I feel like he might be better than them, and he's got a decent chance to play. Next, we got Evan Jones from William Hall High School in Connecticut, going to Holy Cross University. He's an All-American, high school state champion. He's 5'9", and he's the number 9 on the roster, and he's the only forward listed on the roster, so he's definitely going to play. Probably chose playing time over, a good school, or talented soccer school. So Holy Cross, if that's what he's looking for, a decent choice. Next, we got Connor Osterholt from Carroll High School in Ohio. He's going to Wright State University. All-American, 6 foot tall, and I feel like he'll get some opportunities to play there. Next, we got Jackson Bates from Sprayberry High School in Georgia, going to University Alabama Birmingham. He's an All-American. I couldn't find his height. I was looking for it. He looked pretty tall on highlights. Maybe like 5'10". I'm not too sure, but he's a wing, and he's playing as a wing, and he might get some opportunities at a weaker school. So I do expect him to play a bit. Next, we got Giovanni Fabiano from Carl Place High School in New York. He's going to Manhattan. He was an All-American, high school state champion. He's 5'8", and Manhattan is returning a lot of starters, but Giovanni seems like he's a pretty good player, so I expect him to play a bit this year. Next, we got Dylan Rice from Grace Athena, New York, going to Canisius University, who are D1. I had to double-check that. He's an All-American, 5'10", and I feel like he'll have some opportunities to play this year. Next, we got Seth Anderson from Quincy, Notre Dame, Illinois, and he's going to St. Louis University. He is an All-American, high school state champion. Couldn't find his height. He looks 5'10". I'm sorry. This is how you know I research these players. It is tough to find these heights on these guys sometimes. Playing time might be tough for him at St. Louis, but still looks like a good player. Next, we got Keenan Agard from South Gwinnett High School in Georgia. That's the same place Lou Williams went from, straight from South Gwinnett to the NBA, so that's something to mention. He's going to Mercer University. He was Georgia Player of the Year, and 6 foot tall, and I feel like he has some opportunities to play at Mercer. Not the biggest soccer school, so definitely some opportunities. Next, Marcus Garcia from St. Pius X, New Mexico, and he's going to Maryland University. He'll be competing with Caden Stafford for that starting striker job. Well, probably just a striker job. He's an All-American, New Mexico Gatorade Player of the Year, 6'1", and like Caden, he'll have the opportunity to play, but it will be pretty tough. And last and not least, we got William Navarre from Nicollet, Wisconsin, who is staying in state, going to Wisconsin. He's an All-American, Wisconsin Gatorade Player of the Year, 5'9". He'll get himself some opportunities to play. And that is everybody, man. This is definitely the longest video I've ever made. I'm glad my camera held out through all of it. I had to delete some old videos so it would. But, that's 50 of the best high school players in America. Man, I'm sure we have a few stars in there, and definitely excited for the future. Man, like I said, this took a long time to make. I think 5 days, depending on this, and when I start covering like the Premier League and Champions League a bit, don't say I'm not committed to the national team, because this was hard to do. But at the same time, it's also pretty fun to make. Don't feel bad for me. Like, I'm someone who can spend hours going like a Football Manager database to find like one player. So yeah, definitely not like a chore or anything. And it's actually kind of interesting because I played against a couple of these guys, and like some of them, it's like, oh, he went to the same high school as my friend. Oh, he's played with my friend's little brother, you know, something like that. So yeah, definitely like fun experience, fun to do. Not sure if I'll be able to do this again next year, but I'm going to try to keep up with some of the college stuff. Might do like a monthly update video. Probably not weekly. That's probably not enough for that, but just keep up with these guys. And man, again, thanks to Top Drawer Soccer. They did a lot of work for this. And All-American list, Gatorade Players of the Year. So yeah, that was really fun to make. And that's all I've talked about. I'll see you.